There is something that happens to you when someone offers help. Not relief, not gratitude, at least not purely. Something more complicated than that. Something that tightens before it softens. Something that makes you want to say, "No, I'm fine," before you've even finished processing the offer. And even when you accept, even when you say yes, thank you, something inside doesn't quite settle. You spend the next hour feeling like you did something wrong, like you took more than you deserved, like you now owe something that needs to be repaid before the debt becomes uncomfortable. You are not ungrateful, you are not proud, you are not difficult, but accepting help feels guilty, and you have never quite been able to explain why. Psychology says this isn't random. It isn't a character flaw. It is a pattern, built carefully, built early, built for reasons that made complete sense at the time. There are 6 of them. The first one is the deepest, and it rarely arrives with a clear memory attached. It comes through something much quieter than that. Trait 1. You were taught that needing things made you a burden. It comes through accumulation, the sigh that followed your request, the irritation that arrived before the answer, the way someone's energy shifted almost imperceptibly when you needed something, the times you reached towards someone and felt them, not cruelly, but unmistakably, pull back. Nobody may have said it directly, but you felt it anyway. And slowly, the way children absorb everything without being able to name what they're absorbing, your mind began forming a conclusion, so quiet it barely registered as a thought. When I need things, I make things harder for people. That conclusion didn't stay in childhood. It never does. It followed you into every relationship, every friendship, every adult moment where someone offered support and something in you still couldn't quite accept it cleanly. Because your nervous system no longer experiences receiving as something neutral. It experiences it as something that costs the other person, something that should be minimized, something that, even when freely offered, carries the faint weight of inconvenience. Think about what this looks like in daily life. Someone offers to help you move. You say yes, and then immediately start apologizing. For the boxes, for the stairs, for taking their Saturday, for existing in a way that required assistance at all. You are not apologizing for the inconvenience. You are apologizing for needing. And that apology, reflexive, automatic, seemingly endless, is the clearest evidence of how deep this conditioning runs. On the surface, it looks like consideration, like politeness, like someone who simply doesn't want to impose. Underneath, it is something much older and much more painful. It is the behavior of someone who learned, before they had the language to question it, that their needs were something to be managed, not something to be met. And there's a reason receiving feels like more than just discomfort. For many people, help was never just help. It always seemed to come with something attached. Trait 2. You learned that help always came with a hidden cost. In your experience, your nervous system still remembers. Help was rarely just help. It came with expectation, with the subtle implication that it would be remembered, referenced later. Brought up at the precise moment, it would be most effective as leverage. Or it came with a quiet shift in dynamic, where the person who helped now held something over the person who received. Maybe this was overt. Maybe kindness arrived wrapped in obligation so consistently that the two became indistinguishable. Or maybe it was subtler. A change in how someone looked at you afterward. A sense that receiving had shifted the balance of something important. Either way, your mind logged the information. And now, when someone offers help, even someone with no agenda, even someone whose generosity is entirely genuine, your nervous system doesn't simply receive it, it assesses it. What will this cost me? When will they bring it up? What am I now obligated to return? That calculation happens faster than conscious thought. Before you've even finished saying thank you, something in you is already working out the debt. Psychology links this to hypervigilance around relational transactions, a pattern that develops when early experiences of receiving were frequently conditional. When love or support or kindness came attached to expectation, the mind learns to treat all generosity as transactional until proven otherwise. And the exhausting part? It doesn't matter how trustworthy the person offering help actually is. Your nervous system is not responding to them. It is responding to everyone who came before them. You didn't become suspicious of kindness because you're cynical. You became suspicious because kindness, in your experience, wasn't always just kindness. And your mind, doing exactly what it was designed to do, learned to check before it trusted. But it goes even deeper than past experience. For many people, the guilt around receiving help isn't just about what help might cost. It's about what needing help says about who they are. Trait 3. You tied your worth to what you could do, not who you were. Somewhere along the way, your value became attached to your usefulness. Not in a way anyone announced directly, but in the accumulation of what was noticed and what was overlooked, what got praised and what got ignored, when you were really seen and when you somehow became invisible. And what you discovered, slowly and thoroughly, was this. You were most valuable when you were capable, most loved when you were low maintenance, most secure when you required the least and contributed the most. So you built yourself accordingly. You became the person who handled things, who didn't ask, who figured it out alone, who showed up for everyone else without ever becoming the person someone had to show up for. And that identity, capable, self-sufficient, reliably strong, gave you something real. A sense of worth that felt stable, a role that felt secure. The problem arrives the moment someone offers help, because help implies need, and need, for someone whose worth lives inside usefulness, feels like a crack in the foundation. If I need help, am I still capable? If I can't manage this alone, am I still the person I've built my entire self-image around being? This is why accepting help can feel beneath the guilt, like something closer to identity threat. You can help 10 people in a single week without blinking, genuinely, generously, without keeping score. But the moment someone helps you even with something small, even with something you didn't ask for, something in you feels diminished, like you failed a test nobody told you you were taking. When worth lives inside, usefulness receiving feels like subtraction. And no amount of logic makes that feeling smaller, because it isn't coming from logic. It's coming from the deepest layer of how you learn to earn your place in the world. And here's where it gets truly exhausting, because even in the moments when you do accept help, you never actually get to rest inside it. Trait 4. You feel responsible for everyone else's comfort, even when they're helping you. Someone brings you food when you're sick, and instead of simply resting, you are getting up to offer them tea, apologizing for the state of the house, making sure they're comfortable, monitoring their face for signs that they regret coming, wondering if you're being grateful enough, present enough, easy enough to justify the visit. You cannot be helped without simultaneously caretaking the person helping you. And the cruel irony is that this makes receiving help more exhausting than not receiving it at all, because you never actually get to rest inside the support. You spend the entire duration of it working quietly, invisibly, with the same automatic diligence you bring to everything else to make sure the person helping you doesn't regret it. Psychology links this to chronic caretaking patterns, the deeply ingrained tendency to prioritize others' emotional comfort above your own needs, even in moments specifically designed to address your needs. It often forms in people who learned early that relationships required active maintenance, that love was something to be managed rather than simply experienced, that the moment you stopped attending to someone else's comfort even briefly, even legitimately, something important might be lost. So you never fully stop, even when someone is explicitly trying to give you permission to, even when they are standing in front of you, offering care, asking for nothing in return. Part of you is already thinking about what they need. And that reflex, generous, exhausting, entirely automatic, means you almost never get to simply receive. Because receiving requires you to stop caretaking long enough to let something in, and you don't fully know how to do that yet. And underneath all of that, underneath the guilt, the caretaking, the calculating, there's a belief, one so embedded in how you move through the world that it barely feels like a belief at all. It just feels like the way things are. Trait 5. You don't believe you deserve help until you've earned it. The belief is this: support must be earned before it can be accepted. You have to be struggling enough, broken enough, have tried hard enough, long enough, alone enough before help becomes something you're genuinely entitled to receive. And the devastating thing about this belief is that the threshold keeps moving. A friend offers to help you before you've hit your limit. You say, "No, I'm fine. I'll ask when I really need it." But when you really need it, something in you still hesitates. Because even then, at your most depleted, some quiet voice asks whether you've suffered sufficiently to justify the ask. Whether you deserve it yet? Psychology connects this to worthiness wounds' deep, early experiences of conditional love that taught the nervous system to treat care as something rationed rather than something freely available. When support in childhood arrived only after visible suffering, or only when you'd been good enough, quiet enough, manageable enough, the mind applies the same conditions to all support, forever. So you wait, and keep waiting for the moment when needing feels justified enough. But that moment never quite arrives, because the goalposts were never real. They were simply the shape your wound took when it learned to speak in logic. And this final trait is the one that lives at the very center of all of it, the one that makes the others make sense. Trait 6. Accepting help means losing the one thing you could always count on. Self-sufficiency, for many people who struggle to accept help, is not simply a habit or a preference. It is the last reliable form of control in a world that has felt, at various points, deeply unpredictable. When the people around you were inconsistent, when love was uncertain, when support was conditional, when the emotional environment shifted without warning, the one thing that remained stable was you. Your own capability, your own resourcefulness, your own ability to handle things without depending on anyone whose reliability you couldn't guarantee. You became, out of necessity, your own most dependable source. And that self-sufficiency worked. It genuinely worked. It got you through things that would have broken someone without it. It became the foundation of a self-concept that felt solid, precisely because it didn't depend on anyone else remaining constant. But here is what accepting help asks of you. It asks you to put that foundation down, even briefly, even for something small. It asks you to allow someone else into the space where you have always been solely responsible for yourself, and to trust that their presence there will not cost you something important. And for a nervous system that learned, at a formative level, that other people were not entirely reliable, that surrender feels genuinely threatening. Not because the person helping you is untrustworthy, not because the help itself is dangerous, but because receiving requires, for a moment, releasing control. And control for people who learned early that the world was unpredictable is not about power. It is about protection. It is the armor that formed around a self that was once too exposed, too dependent, too vulnerable to people who didn't always show up the way they should have. Accepting help asks you to remove that armor, even briefly, even in safety. And some part of you, the part that remembers what it cost to need people in environments that weren't ready to meet that need, cannot yet fully believe that doing so is safe. So let's bring this together, because if you've seen yourself in any of this, there's something important that psychology wants you to understand. You were not born this way. You did not develop this guilt from ingratitude. Not from pride, not from some fundamental flaw in the way you relate to other people. You developed it because receiving, in your experience, was complicated. Because help came with cost. Because needing things made you feel like a burden before anyone said a word. Because the safest version of yourself, the one that earned approval, that felt secure, that didn't risk rejection, was the one who required the least. And a mind shaped by those experiences doesn't simply relax because someone offers kindness. It responds the only way it knows, with guilt, with deflection, with the exhausting, automatic impulse to give it back before it can be taken. But here is what was always true, and what the guilt was never able to reach. You did not need to earn the right to be helped. You only learned to believe you did. That belief was not the truth. It was a survival strategy. Formed early, formed carefully, formed in response to environments that made needing feel dangerous and self-sufficiency feel like the only reliable form of safety. It protected you. For a long time, it genuinely protected you. But protection and freedom are not the same thing. And you deserve both. You are allowed to receive help before you've reached your limit. You are allowed to accept kindness without immediately calculating what you owe. You are allowed to let someone carry part of what you've been holding, not because you've finally suffered enough to justify it, but simply because you are human. And humans need things. And needing things was never the problem. The problem was the world that taught you it was. Slowly, gently, without shame, you get to learn something different now. That receiving is not weakness. That need is not inconvenience. That letting someone help you is not the loss of the one thing you could always count on. It is, finally, the beginning of trusting that you don't have to count on only yourself anymore. If something in this video finally gave language to a feeling you've carried for years without a name, you're in exactly the right place. Subscribe. There's more here that was made for you. This channel exists for people who give freely, receive guiltily, and have spent too long believing that needing things was something to be ashamed of.